Good afternoon. Now you are going to hear a short retelling of the movie The Invisible Side. The movie is based on a true story. Tony Hamilton came to a Christian school to enroll his son and also put in a good word for Big Michael, a homeless boy who sometimes spent the night at his house. Coach Cotton was impressed with Michael's characteristics, but the principal, on the other hand, doesn't know what to do with a boy with a grade point average of about 0. They don't even know how old he is. Seeing the resistance from the pedagogical council, the coach reminded them that this was a Christian school and they should help all children. Big Michael first came to the new school wearing worn-out sneakers and worn-out clothes. Mrs. Bosval gave the students test sheets to check their knowledge, but Michael did not even try to answer any of the questions, only drew a boat. Tony's wife is angry with her husband because Michael lives in their house all the time and eats all the food, and she is not going to take it anymore. Lee Ann came to a school volleyball game to support her daughter Collins and her family. Her husband Sean noticed a healthy black guy picking up leftover popcorn after the game. A month passed and Michael still hadn't completed a single task. On the playground, he was met by a little boy named Jay Twee, who told him about his father, a former basketball star. It was the first time Leanne noticed the big, humble boy, and the principal spoke to him. Recently, the newspapers had written about a homeless man who had fallen from a height and fallen to his death. It turned out that it was Michael's father, and the young man himself could not even remember the last time he saw him. Michael came to the laundry room to wash his only spare t-shirt and opened the textbook Mrs. Bosval had given him. He had already earned a satisfactory grade on his next test. Mrs. Bosval was sure that he was not stupid, but he needed a special approach. When Twee's family was coming home from school in the evening, they saw Michael standing in his normal clothes in the rain, heading for the school gym because it was warm, but it was already closed. And the woman realized that the poor boy had nowhere to sleep, so she put him in the car and brought him home. Collins was surprised to see a big man on the doorstep, and it was the first time Michael had ever been in such a large, luxurious house. Before going to bed, the couple wondered if they had done the right thing, if he would steal from them. When Anne came downstairs in the morning, she saw that the bedding was neatly folded, but Michael was gone. Anne managed to stop him at the last minute and suggested that they celebrate Thanksgiving with him. While everyone was watching the Super Bowl, Anne cooked a bunch of delicious food, put it on plates, and everyone immediately went back to watching football, and only Michael, who had hidden a bun in his pocket, sat down at the dinner table. Anne thought about it, turned off the TV, and asked her family to sit down at the table as well. They all held hands and prayed. This was all new to Big Michael. The next day, Anne took Michael to the store to buy new clothes, because the spare t-shirt in his bag was hardly a complete wardrobe. But according to Michael, he had clothes. They came to the ghetto neighborhood where Michael grew up and where his mother lives, where he still has some things. The burly man insisted that his companion stay in the car. The authority figure greeted Michael, but he said hello to only one boy, David, who was probably his brother. On the door of his house, Michael found an eviction notice and his mother was missing. Upset, he went back to the car and lied that his mother had just moved out. The couple then went to a local big and tall clothing store. The selection was so-so, and Anne let Michael pick out what he liked. It turned out that the boy likes bright striped clothes. The woman is thinking about arranging a bedroom for Michael with appropriate furniture, because the big boy has already broken their $10,000 sofa. The school administered an aptitude test, and the results showed that Michael's learning ability was only 5%, but he scored as high as 98% in the protective instinct category. Anne showed Michael his new room, and he was very grateful because he had never even had his own bed. To hide her tears, a crying Anne locked herself in another room. Today is a special day for the family. They are celebrating at an expensive restaurant because Michael's grades have improved, and now he can take part in the soccer qualifiers. The boy recognizes one of the restaurant employees and hugs him tightly. Marcus is his brother, but Michael doesn't even know where he lives. The last time he saw him was when he was very young. Today, the 17-year-old boy was read a bedtime story for the first time in his life. Anne admits that by taking Michael in, she has made not only his life happier, but also her own. The following Christmas, Tui's family took a holiday photo with the new family member, but some relatives had questions. Anne's rich friends call Michael King Kong and attribute her good deeds to white guilt, and wonder if her daughter feels safe living under the same roof as a big black man. Anne was ashamed of her friends and left them. It turned out that people at school were also saying unpleasant things about Michael. Over time, Colleen's attitude toward the good-natured giant improved, and she left her friends in the library and sat at Michael's desk. Michael came to his first soccer practice, but there is one problem. He knows nothing about the sport and does everything wrong. He is much more interested in the balls flying into the sky than in the game itself. Unlike other children from foster families who take out their anger on the field, Michael is a good-natured giant who would not hurt a fly. Everyone in Tui's family is an athlete, so in order not to disappoint them, Michael began to train hard. One evening he asked Anne to help him get his driver's license. Not that he wanted to drive, he just wanted to have at least one document with his name on it. It turned out that there was no information in the system about a person like Michael. Then Anne thought about becoming the young man's guardian. The social service told her that when Michael was 7 years old, he was separated from his mother and other children, and the drug addict had at least 12 children. Michael is a ward of the state, so her consent is not even required. But Anne thought it would be wrong and decided to meet with Michael's mother. The woman burst into tears when she learned that the selfless visitor had taken full care of her son. During the family meeting, Sean asked Michael if he would mind if he and his wife became his guardians, and the boy was surprised to hear that they had not yet become a family. Michael finally got his driver's license and a pickup truck as a gift. SJ teaches Michael the tactics of playing with condiment jars. The boy asks his mother to take him to the store to buy a new video game. His friends have fun, and the new driver is often distracted by the road and does not notice the truck they hit. Upset, Michael sits on the side of the road. SJ only has a split lip. The policeman explains to Anne that children should not sit in the front seat. The pillow flies out with such speed that it breaks the children's facial bones. But SJ somehow remains almost unharmed, and all because Michael put his hand out and blocked the pillow. SJ records Michael's training sessions on video so that he can analyze his mistakes. So far, the big guy isn't doing very well, and the coach can't clearly explain what he wants from the player. Then Anne intervened and told her son that the team was his family, and he had to protect the players just like he protected SJ from the pillow. And Michael seemed to be switched and started knocking one player after another to the ground. It was time to test Michael's skills against another school team. The opponents immediately started calling the big guy names, as does Old Redneck, who sat next to Tui's family. Unfortunately, Michael can't do anything against the clever rival boar, who turned out to be the son of a harmful old man. He manages to escape from our hero time and time again. Anne tries again to influence the course of the game and even calls the coach on her cell phone. But she loses her nerve and throws the old racist out. When Michael was lying on the ground, number 66 kicked him in the helmet, but the referee ignored the violation. Then the coach said he would defend the boy as if he were his son. Michael remembered Anne's words that the team was his family, gathered his courage and just took down number 66 and dragged him across the field until it was over. This was a turning point in Michael's game. He successfully blocked his opponents time after time, and his team won a confident victory. SJ recorded the best moments of the match on a disc and sent them all over America to teams from different colleges, and absolutely all the coaches were completely delighted with the unstoppable thug's abilities. They all came to the school to watch him play live. The man in the yellow cap came from Tennessee College, and Anne hated their team, so she immediately made it clear to Cotton that he had to drop him. Michael was put up against another player, and he knocked him down without even realizing it. The coaches immediately grabbed their phones, and it seemed that Michael had a great sports future ahead of him. But it turned out that his GPA to get into college had to be at least 2.5, and for that he needed to pass all the remaining assignments with a grade of at least B, so it was decided to hire a tutor. Miss Sue assures the student that she will definitely help him. The main thing is to believe in himself. A coach from one of the colleges came to Tui's house, and the whole family welcomed him, but they did not know that they would have to receive such guests every day, and everyone would try to lure the promising athlete to their college. The constant meetings tire Michael because he also has to study hard. The season is over, and Michael has led his team to win the private school championship. Anne wants Michael to go to Ole Miss, so she tells the coach how to lure him away. However, the boy leans toward choosing Tennessee, which she hates with all her heart. So she asks Miss Sue to lie to Michael. This influenced the impressionable boy, and he chose Ole Miss. At the graduation ceremony, Anne told her husband that Michael had earned the required 2.5 GPA and was now free to apply to the college of his choice. However, he faced another challenge. a member of the student sports organization called him for a conversation. The fact is that after signing the contract with Michael, Coach Otten got a job at Ole Miss, and his guardian Sean played basketball there, and Ann was a cheerleader, and even Miss Sue studied at this college. In fact, his guardians are recruiters, which means that other recruiters can start doing the same thing, namely becoming guardians of poor athletes and enrolling them in their universities. All the Tuohys did for him was to get him into Ole Miss and play on their football team. The woman instilled this idea in Michael, and he ran away in despair. The young man no longer trusts Ann. That day, Michael never returned home, and Ann wondered if she had put too much pressure on him, thinking first and foremost of her own desires. Big Michael came to the ghetto to meet his mother. A government official lured him to a brothel, claiming that his mother had to come here for a dose. His brother David dropped out of school and joined the gang. The gangster started making dirty jokes about Ann and her daughter. Michael was about to leave, but the authority figure threatened him with a gun, but the big guy was not afraid. He scattered the gangsters in all directions, breaking their faces and breaking furniture against them. Michael remembered how he was taken away from his family when he was 7 years old, and he didn't want that life anymore. Ann came to the neighborhood to see if Michael was there. The authority figure started threatening her and her adopted son, but Republican Ann is a member of the Rifle Association and always carries a gun in her purse, so some thug can't intimidate her. Michael called Ann his mom and asked her to pick him up from the laundry. Only now the woman asked if Michael wanted to play football at all, and if he liked Tennessee, he could choose that college. It was his decision. But Michael still chose Ole Miss because his whole family went there and he wants to be closer to them. Miss Yu will continue to help him with his studies here, as long as he doesn't get too distracted by the female students. Ann started to cry again and hid in the car, but Michael asked her to come out and gave her a big hug. One day Ann read an article about a 21-year-old boy, a talented athlete who grew up without parents and died in a gang fight. She was once again convinced that she had done the right thing, because it could have been her son. Michael became the best player at Ole Miss and, thanks to Miss Yu's support, received his degree. After graduation, Michael began his professional football career.